We're talking very much about how the golf club moves around your body, how it's delivered to the golf ball, and obviously those things are pretty essential to play great golf. It's very difficult if the club is swiping across the ball or it's going super far behind you in the backswing. Now the issue I've been seeing is that lots of golfers are aware of kind of where the club should be in the swing, got some decent reference points, and they're trying to put the club into those positions. There's a much better way. If we can control how you move your body, so that is in terms of your rotations and your tilts, then we will control how the club moves. If your body moves well, the club will move well around your body. So when you're thinking about playing and delivery and attack angle, that's the golf club. We need that to happen, but think about your body. So we're going to break this video down into 4 different sections. If you can work on these 4 different sections and improve them, your golf club will start moving exactly as you need it around your body. When we take an address to the golf ball, we have to get the club moving. And how we want that to be moving is with the upper body. So that's my shoulders, my chest, my torso. My hips are going to move a little bit. My knees are going to move a little bit. And as we do that, we actually have, or we should have, a little bit of weight shift as well. We should be starting to kind of shift pressure into the right side. You might be this person, or you might have seen someone who's this person. How many times have we seen, you know, the hands and the arms get involved too much and we get these kind of movements where the club head shoots inside and the hands move away because there wasn't the right movement here, or maybe the arms pick the club up too much, or maybe from that face on we get the arms going super narrow. All of those faults are effectively because there's too much focus on the golf club, not enough focus on the body. This is my camera bag. I've got it here for a reason. It's heavy-ish. The cameras are out at the moment, so it's not as heavy as it could be. I want you to grab something heavy. The heavier the better. When I do this in my bag, I tend to use a medicine ball, but I'm trying to use things that you might have at home. A bag that's heavy, you can use that. And what I want you to do is take that heavy object and get into your posture. I'm going to try and hold it the best I can. I want you to think about making some little movements back and through with that bag. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to move it forward and back, forward and back. And you'll notice that when I do that and I stop at this point, I appreciate the bag might be kind of hiding some of that now, there's rotation through my shoulders, there's rotation through my torso, through my hips, through my knees, and there's a little bit of weight shift. I appreciate you can't see that weight shift. So me feeling like I'm moving these heavy objects, I wouldn't really be moving it with my arms. That wouldn't make a lot of sense. I wouldn't move it in this fashion because that feels more difficult than what I did before. So as we hold something pretty heavy, we need to get some momentum in it. We get that momentum with our body. And my hands and my arms are extremely passive. My body is doing all of the work. And because my body is doing all of the work, that bag is going to move in the same direction, the same movement every single time. As soon as we start to use hands and arms, we get all sorts of different movements that are different and they're not consistent. You know, if I use my hands and arms, where can I put the golf club? Pretty much anywhere. If I stand there and I imagine this golf club is incredibly heavy and I'm using my bigger muscles to move it, guess what? The golf club starts to move exactly where we need it to. It starts to move in this perfect takeaway position and we start to get the movement that we need in the body. We all want this perfect top of the backswing position where the arms are really nicely structured, the club's in a great position and we look like the best in the world. Well, similar to what we just said before, how you move your body is key to that. And we can get that position perfect by thinking about how we move the body. So let me take my setup. I've still got my 7-iron and I'm just going to go into the top of my backswing, and with any luck, that looks half decent, looks like something that we'd kind of strive for. But what would happen to that position if I simply changed where my upper body position was? Let's say my head was kind of off the ball and a little bit down. Well, straight away you can see how that down the line looks down very different. What about if I move my head towards the target? And again, you can see how that changes the club position. What about if in that backswing I'd stood up and lost my body angles? Well, now that golf club looks, and my left arm looks super flat. So as we change where the body is, we start to change where the club is. So if we can get the body to move better in the backswing, you're going to find that the club moves better in the backswing. It's kind of as simple as that. So I want you to think about the buttons or the zip, and you can see I've got the zip on my top, where that points in the backswing. I've got a T. I'm going to use that, I'm going to put that right on my sort of chest so it points directly out in front of my chest. And then when I take my setup, I very simply want to think about where does that point in the backswing. If I just drop my club down to begin with, when I take a setup to the golf ball, it's going to be pointing somewhere down towards the ground. I'm tilted over the ball. But when I make my backswing, this tee needs to point pretty much horizontally out away from me. So let me show you what that would look like now. I've got my tee there and I'm going to make my hopefully pretty good rotation. Head stays nice and still. I'm going to take that tee and I'm going to move it so it points behind me and pretty much horizontally. What that does is it means I'm rotating, because rotating points the tee behind me, but it means that my upper body is in a really, really good position. Watch what happens if my head moves off the ball. The tee stays pointing down. That's what we want to avoid. Or alternatively, what would happen if I turned and my tee started pointing up towards the sky? Well, again, you can see my head moving, tee too much up. That's going to influence the backswing position. So I'm going to be taking an address, and I'm basically going to be getting my chest to point what I feel is back directly towards you looking in that camera now. That's where my chest is going to point. If I can do that, I should get a top of the backswing, which is pretty decent. So next we're going to talk about downswing and follow through. I've got an amazing drill, and then make sure you stay tuned to the end because we're going to cover probably the one fault which gets so many golfers into this muddle in the first place. Now, downswing and impact. For me, the one thing that you need to take away from this video, if there's only one thing, make it this, because this can completely change the way you actually hit the golf shots. So to keep this really simple, let's give ourselves 2 reference points. Belt buckle, buttons, zip, sternum, chin, wherever you want it to be, okay? And let's think about how they are related through this downswing. And we're talking about this kind of vertical position. So we've now got this perfect takeaway, this perfect backswing. You all look like tour pros. So what happens if in the downswing we don't get the right relationship between this, we'll call it zip and belt? What happens if my zip gets ahead of my belt? Well, we get this happening. Some of you will be familiar with that. And look what that's done to the golf club. Shifted it way, way on the outside. This is going to be that sort of really common downward across weak strike. This too far ahead of this. Equally, it's not really any good if we go the opposite. If we sort of get this sliding position, because now the club's gone super down behind me and I'm going to struggle from here. So here's the best little analogy for you. In transition, as you get into your downswing, you basically want to try and keep this above this. Now, is it exactly above each other? Probably not. The belt buckle might be slightly ahead, but it's just a great sort of visual. And what you'll feel when you do that is as you make that transition move, if you were to stop me here and say, could you jump? I could. And where would I jump? I would jump straight up. If I do that incorrectly, let's do one of those poorer moves. Let's go up to the top and let's get that sliding position. If you ask me if I could jump, well, I probably could, but if you ask me, I'm going to feel like I'm jumping this way because I'm not stacked above myself. I want to feel like in that transition, I'm stacked. My zip is above my belt buckle. Now, I say it might not be exact, but it's a great concept. It's a great feeling. And in my experience, concepts and feelings are great because you're on the golf course. There's no cameras, there's no mirrors, there's no one slow motion stopping you. You have got to stand here, you've got to make a golf swing, and so the concepts and the ideas you have are key. So that's going to get you into a pretty damn good delivery position because of what your body did. Now we need to go through the follow through. But again, we can still use those reference points. So as I go through the golf ball, I now want to feel like I take my belt buckle and I rotate it and I push it as much towards the target as I can. And as I do that, my chest is going to go up to the sky. Belt to target, chest to sky. That is so, so key. Now, a great drill. I love this drill. You're going to take something like a towel. Now, as it stands, this towel is a little bit light. So what's a good idea to do, and I really encourage you all to do this, get some masking tape and just tape it around lots of different sections of that towel to make it a little bit heavier. Okay, then what you're going to do, you're going to take that towel and you're going to put it under your lead arm and you're going to get yourself into posture. And what you're going to do now is you're going to make some backswings and some through swings. It's not going to work quite as well because this towel is quite light, but you can see it on the screen here. You're going to make some backswings and some downswings where you're trying to basically put as much speed as you can into that towel, into this end, and you're trying to, on the way through, get it to hit your back. Now, the reason that drill is so good is because you can just go ahead and experiment with it. You can just try and Now we can make a few moves and see what the movements are that you need to make to get that towel swinging around your body with a bit of force. And what you're going to feel is there's a lot of energy needed in the body in order to do that. There's my end position. Belt is rotated, it's as close to the target as it can be, it's ahead of my zip, which points up towards the sky. That body position is going to give me the best chance of delivery. I believe, and we've said it so many times, the inside controls the outside. If I move my body correctly, I know that the golf club will move correctly around my body. We can't place the golf club into certain positions, because if we do that, we're using too much of the hands and arms. And as I said already, when I use my hands and arms, I can make the club go into pretty much any position it wants to be in. It's so difficult to find that perfect spot. So don't be obsessed with the golf club. Try and get the body to move correctly, as we've done in this video, and let the arms work naturally around that. And what you're going to find is your golf swing, I should say, has got more flow, it's got more rhythm, the timing's better. You're using the bigger muscles to control it. So, so important. So never think about placing the golf club independently of what the body's doing.